Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Canal Days. As always, I am your host Carrie, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. Our Canal Days series delves into the vast collection of historical sites throughout Massachusetts, with Robert's expertise of the local history as our personal guide. Each episode, we uncover history throughout local communities with historic houses, meaningful monuments, preeminent pivotal pioneers, and remarkable remaining remnants, all while uncovering their seminal significance. Today's episode of Canal Days will be canvassing the West Park Cemetery, located in Southampton, Massachusetts. So, can you inform us of the exact location of the West Park in Southampton?
Yes, it's on Fulmer Road, and that's a road that part of the time is dirt road, and so you have to be ready for that if you're going out there. And it's in the the northwest corner of Southampton, and it's in the regions of the reservoirs. And we're going to talk about why the cemetery, when we get out there, what it's like. But it's a cemetery that was made because it was very far away from Southampton Center Cemetery, and you had this settlement out there in the 1780s, and they couldn't carry body over hill and dale, which is all the roads leading in were hills going to Southampton Center, and so they formed their own. And amazingly, it's been saved. You know, what I mean by that is that a lot of cemeteries are moved for aesthetic reasons. This one was almost moved because it's part of a watershed of a big reservoir. So it's still around, and that's the amazing part.
And can you discuss why this cemetery was originally formed and when?
Okay, it formed, I would say, about the 1780s by the earliest burial, but that's not only going by the stones that are out there now. Now, it was formed because of its great isolation, which continues to this day. It's still very isolated. And burials have happened in there up to, I believe, the 1920s, and before they stopped. And it's on a hill, small hill, near the very tip of the Tycarmony Reservoir. And it was in a place where there was a lot of bedrock surrounding it on three sides. And for that reason, it's still isolated. And it's surrounded also by reservoirs that belong to Holyoke. The Intake Reservoir, the White Reservoir, and the Tycarmony Reservoir. And before that, at that location with Tycarmony, is the Manhattan Reservoir. And why was it even formed? Because it was isolation. But why was not ever taken out? Well, there's a good reason for that. We'll come up with that in question 4.
So, we will be right back after this quick announcement. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten path throughout the state of Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Como. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming churches, or more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring an unforgettable adventure and personalized memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for an exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit holyokecanaltour.org or email bobcat4214 capital B at yahoo.com to book your private tour today. Getting back to our Canal Days episode of the West Park Cemetery in Southampton, Massachusetts, can you classify what category the cemetery fits into?
In the very beginning, it would fit into a neighborhood-style cemetery, and it would probably be one of the first ever in Massachusetts. because 1780s is a very early age for a neighborhood style, but it was because of the isolation. Now, most neighborhood style cemeteries came around the first decade of 1800s, so this is very early, and so it became West Parts Cemetery, and West Part is the name of that entire area towards the northwest of Southampton. Most of that land nowadays is not farmed anymore. It's been bought out by Holyoke. And Holyoke owns 20% of the land of Southampton by deeds. And they have to because their reservoir system, to a great extent, is out there. So, it's now been forced into a lawn-style cemetery. So previously, it had plots, not assigned to them, but when people died, they would save room for their relatives. When a relative would die, they put it next to it. And that's a typical churchyard look, but no church around, so it was a neighborhood cemetery. Now, since the beautification of cemetery movement from 1880 up to 1910, it's been forced into lawn-style cemetery, straight rows whenever possible, and having the gravestone's inscription face in towards the nearest road. And that's not the way it should be. Most of these stones that were put in between 1780 to about 1830, the first half century of the cemetery, would have the inscriptions on the headstone point towards the west, and nowadays they point towards the east for those old stones. So there's been a drastic change in that direction, and there's only about five footstones left in the whole cemetery, when most of the stones should have a footstone up there before the 1840s.
And reveal what has kept this cemetery going and how it is still used today.
Well, it hasn't been used in 100 years, but it's been well maintained since then, so it's a very nice cemetery to visit, up on a couple of stone walls that buttress its outer edge near the road, so it's very safe from landslides. And why is it still there when it's surrounded by reservoirs, especially to upstream of those reservoirs? And the reason why, and it's very peculiar, it's in this rock-cut area where the water will never go towards those reservoirs. And so you could leave the bodies there and put the reservoirs in. The reservoir, one reservoir is about a quarter mile away, the other about a half mile away, and the other one is upstream, so it doesn't really matter. So, when Holyoke started buying deeds to land out in northwestern Southampton, they very graciously asked all the landowners every year, can we buy your land at a given rate if you move? And gradually, from about the period, I would say about 1840, up to the period about 1870, they very gradually would take on the ownership of all that land. But they found that the cemetery was contained in rocks. And so thus, there was no reason to be concerned about decomposing bodies, elements reaching the reservoir system. Even though the brook goes right on the other side of the street, even then, there was no reason why. So that's a very peculiar thing, and it was done so graciously, the opposite of the way the Quabbin Reservoir was obtained by the state. So I'm very proud of the way that Holyoke did it, and Southampton now has a great nature preserve out there with one big functional reservoir, one tiny one abandoned, but they could actually turn some of that into conservation land. Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in and listening to Canal Days and our episode on the West Park Cemetery in Southampton, Massachusetts, and joining us on our journey through the rich history of the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden and overlooked marvels and their fascinating stories that shaped our past in the state of Massachusetts. A special thanks to Robert Camus, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. Remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, book private tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to keep exploring and discovering the history that is hidden in plain sight all around us. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in to our next episode of Canal Days.